We are Northern Ontario Angels, and we're happy to support companies across the region. So I'll get things kicked off here and give you a little bit of overview of what the Northern Ontario Angels are, what we've done, and where we're going. Our mission is to connect investors with entrepreneurs across Northern Ontario and stimulate economic development. Proud to acknowledge that we operate on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. We acknowledge all the treaties and traditional territories on which we gather today. I alluded to our mission. It's really economic prosperity across Northern Ontario. Oh my God, what's that photo? And we connect angel investors, mostly in Northern Ontario, but more across the region and throughout the rest of the country and internationally with Northern entrepreneurs. So businesses and entrepreneurs have to be based in Northern Ontario, but our investors are throughout the world. Our success is really that we are the one angel network in Northern Ontario, but we're an 8 chapter community. So Thunder Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, North Bay, Timmins, Kenora, Parry Sound, and we're doing work in the far north with and for Indigenous investors and entrepreneurs. That's Mary Long Irwin. She was my predecessor, and she's now transitioned to be a consultant for Thunder Bay and international, attracting a lot of international investors. It's a good deal exposure in Northern Ontario. There's myself, the executive director, Kim Wahama Deshane. Couldn't do this evening without her. And our colleague Taryn, who's our marketing and communications coordinator based out of Timmins. So our team is truly Northern. We are represented by a board of directors, volunteer board of directors, and they're regionally based as well too. One of our board of directors is here this evening, Dr. Debbie Saunders, huge champion for everything that we do. And there she is. Our organization doesn't exist without funding from FedNor. They've been our historical funder. It was actually their idea to come up with the Northern Ontario Angels in 2005. Without their support, our organization doesn't exist. And we're also supported by the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation. Very grateful for those contributions. And then we partner with the private sector throughout the region. So how do we get referrals? And I'll talk about referrals because if you're thinking about becoming an investor, maybe you're like, I don't know what the quality of deals are like that come across our desk. But we do a lot of work. Our team does a ton of work working with innovation ecosystem partners to make sure that the deals that come across your desk are of high quality and surety. Am I back? Oh, yeah. Tonight on the CBC. No, bad. Microphones are bad. I should not have one. Anyways, we partner with economic development corporations, regional innovation centers like NORCAT, our co-sponsor for this evening, FedNor, NOHFC, accelerators like the Innovation Corridors, that's downtown Sudbury, post-secondary institutions, personal networks, and websites. All these deals come into us in different shapes and forms. Sometimes they're not investor ready. At that point, we'll cross-refer them back to other organizations. But the deals that are investor ready and that we have a great deal of confidence with, they're going to connect in with people like Cliff, people like Peter, and then we'll put them in front of investors. And investors really have the confidence in the work that we've done to support the deals. So we've been very, very successful as a network because we're afforded the opportunity through the funding of FedNor and NOHFC to spend a lot of time vetting the companies that come across our desk. But we can't do it without the partners that we have here. So strengthening linkages is really important. The process for entrepreneurs, they can apply through our website. They fill out a form, do a little bit of due diligence, test what their readiness is to be in front of investors. We do a little bit of a discussion, and then we pass them on to the consultants. So Cliff is our consultant in Sudbury with his business partner, JF Demore. He's in Jamaica, tough life. Peter was their predecessor, so Peter passed the baton on to Cliff and JF a couple of years ago. Without Peter here, this network wouldn't exist in Sudbury. So Peter is an architect of this as well too. So you'll hear from Peter in a moment, but going through this process, we then pair entrepreneurs or businesses that are looking to scale with our accredited investors. There might be a sit-down meal at having a coffee or whatever. It could be a formal pitch. There's a lot of different ways that we do it. And then there's due diligence and the investment finalization. We're a non-for-profit organization, so we don't take commissions and we don't in any of the deals that we facilitate, and we don't charge fees to our investors. We're, again, funded by FedNor and NOHFC to facilitate these deals and make sure that we do the matchmaking. The deals are signed by the investors and the entrepreneurs afterwards. We do some coaching around what to expect, but we're not a part of that process. If you're an investor, if you want to become an investor, you might want to think of what the journey is like. That's Manjit Minhas. She was our keynote speaker at Venture North, which was in September. And really, you're getting exposure to regional deal flow through Northern Ontario Angels. You get financial return, but a lot of our investors have said they're really excited to invest in Northern Ontario companies because they're creating jobs for today and tomorrow. So there's a real civic drive to many of our investors. We mitigate a lot of the risk through that due diligence that we were talking about. So the deals that we present in front of people are high quality. And yeah, it's angel investing, so there is a degree to risk in it. But we like to think that what we've done is vetted it very thoroughly, and we minimize and de-risk it as much as possible. We do events. So we're at one of the events that we host tonight. And we did one with Link North and Timmins over the last couple months. In October, we were in Venture North. Kim has her fingerprints on all these events, and we just try and create brand exposure for who we are and what we're trying to do and where we come into the funding ecosystem. But we've attracted investors from our events. We've created deal flow. We've connected with ecosystem partners like the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, who's in the room tonight. We just talk about the nuances of angel investing and try and stimulate deal flow. Our marquee event I alluded to, we had Manjit Minhas, was Venture North. It was here in Sudbury at the Valley Cavern. We were sold out. I think a number of you were there. I'd like to think that was a very, very successful event. We'll be doing more of those. We're actually looking at partnering with Muskoka Futures in Huntsville next year to do a great event with them. And that was a wonderful event. So there are some of the speakers that were there. Again, just trying to lend visibility and demystify angel investing. So we're actually the #1 angel investment network in North America. We're the only angel network in Northern Ontario. We're in 8 chapter communities and we have 9 consultants. But we're able to connect with a lot of different investors, like I mentioned earlier. And the average size of our investment is just under $400,000. So it's a big number. We do that due diligence that I've talked about a number of times. And we really value confidentiality for our investors and our founders. And we're increasing the equity, diversity, inclusion, and access within the entrepreneurs that we are supporting at our board level, our operations level, or our consulting level, and with our entrepreneurs. So in the next little while, we're really going to be focusing on women investors, attracting women investors, and working with women founders and Indigenous entrepreneurs and Indigenous investors. So I think there's a lot of excitement on the horizon. We're already #1 angel network in North America, and we focus on these areas while sustaining all the other productivity. I think it's a very, very exciting time for our organization. Cliff, there you are. So some of our successes, since inception, we've done over 500 deals. If you take all the sources of our investments, that's over $730 million. So that's angel investment, that's government funding, that's conventional sources, that's founders funding, and other angel networks. Of that 730, Northern Ontario Angels have put in over 30% of that. So we're the biggest quotient of that pie. We're starting to see more money come from outside of the region, from international investors, up to 45 million, and then a staggering number of over 5,000 full-time jobs that have been created. That's not part-time jobs. We're not counting the full-time jobs that we've maintained or part-time jobs that we've maintained. It's a huge number, and that's being reinvested into our social welfare state. These are high-paying jobs that contribute to the tax base. And we did some napkin math, and basically FedNor as our main contributor since inception, for every $865 that they put in, that's created a job that's on average about $60,000. So a great investment by FedNor, and again, we're really pleased with the return that we've been able to provide. Half of our deals are technology-based deals, and there's a ton of different technologies within that. We work very closely with Peter and Brendan at NORCAT and the other regional innovation centers. We'll see that number grow over the years. There's a lot of excitement around entertainment here. There's studios being built across the region. Hello? Yep, sorry about that. But these are the sectors that we're supporting. This is the organization that measures us as being the #1 angel network, which is the Angel Capital Organization Association in the US. Where that's about 75 different groups within that. You'll see us in the top category in figure 39 and 38. So we got room to grow. Equity, diversity, inclusion, and access. About 20% of our active investors are female. That's above our national average. We want to see that number grow. We're going to be tracking that. We're hoping that this is an intriguing evening for you and you'd like to sign up at the end of tonight. And 20% of our deals are female-led and about 10% of our deals are Indigenous-led. So as I alluded before, we're going to see an increase in those numbers. We're going to be very intentional and very strategic about doing that. How do you become a member of the Northern Ontario Angels? We have an amazing new website. If you go on it, navigate to the middle part of it there, investors, there's an apply now section, and it'll walk you through some of the criteria of being an accredited investor. But again, speak to Cliff, speak to myself. You can access us through the website. We would love to have you be a part of our network and to participate in our deal flow. No pressure on doing active investments. We just want to be able to share what our deal flow looks like. So you have that exposure, and in time when you get the comfort level up, we'd be happy to close some deals with you. So no pressure, but it would be great to have you sign up this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian. Thank you, everyone. And first of all, welcome. What a great crowd. This is really, Cliff, Ian, Kim, you've done an amazing job. So this is fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for showing up. As Ian said, for those who don't know me, I've done some advertising for the last 40 years in this town, and hopefully you remember Bianco, so that's where I come from. And about 7 or 8 years ago, Don Duval, the CEO of NORCAT, said, I'm looking for somebody who wants to devote some time to help startups. I said, I like that idea. So now I work with Don Duval, our CEO, who wanted to be here tonight, and I'll explain why in a minute, why he can't be. And Brendan, please stand up, Brendan. Brendan Skiffington is our General Manager of Innovation. He is my clone because he works really, really hard, and he takes direction fantastic, and he's really helping really put NORCAT innovation on the map. And what, I guess I should say, why is NORCAT innovation really important for what it does here in town? Well, we never had before the ability to take a startup who had an idea here in Sudbury and find mentoring, coaching, and funding for that individual. Most of them always have to go out of town. We've changed the dynamics of that. People now say, hey, let's go to NORCAT because I can register as a client. I have this idea, and we set up with our mentorship board, and I help with the due diligence and trying to find that value proposition Ian was talking about. Since we started really putting NORCAT innovation on really high alert, we have raised over $38 million in angel investing and venture capital for the companies that we have worked with since 2015. So pretty proud of what we're doing, and we're contributing to the number total of what NOA is doing. So we work hand in hand with them. The whole part of trying to, what NORCAT is really trying to do is we want to work with what Ian and I really is our pet project, and that is called redistributing the balance. And what do we mean by that? The balance between women and men and what's happening. And I'll give you an example of a figure at the end of 2020. Fortune magazine reported that the increase in wealth in the world was $1.8 trillion. 91% went to men. We've got to change the dynamics of that. And evenings like tonight, hopefully we'll start that change because, like I say, NOA and NORCAT, we're committed to trying to work with women startups and trying to add particular attention to those startups and getting women angel investors to look at some of these deals. Some of the things we're going to talk about tonight, and you'll hear from some of our guests like Deb Saunders, who's I've always proclaimed she is our #1 female angel investor in all of Northern Ontario. God bless you. And a great partner. She's going to be talking about some of the things that she's gone through. You'll hear from Danielle Graham, who is the founder of the Firehood Fund. because people say, well, where do I go from here? How do I invest? How can I get involved? And how do I do due diligence? So hopefully tonight, when you mingle and go to talk to people, whether it's through Ian, myself, Cliff, and you know who you can talk to is Debbie and Sherry Tomchek, who's our number one women startup, I think, of Canada. God bless you. She's here with her team. Absolutely. And so talk to her about the journey she's been on and what she's been able to do. So you have a lot of individuals that you can talk to. If you've got questions, please write them down, give them to myself or Kim Wahama, and we'll try to get back to you any way we possibly can. Make sure we get your email so we can respond properly. Tonight, we really want to focus on a couple of things that, as Ian said, the value of proposition. The very difficult part of starting where a value proposition goes to, and that is what makes you different. What is so different about what you're doing that I can't go on Google and find 10 other people doing it? So that value proposition is a very, very simple solution if you can answer that question. If you can't answer that question, you got to go back to the drawing board. I'll leave it at that. I won't bore you with a lot of details. I'll talk to you one-on-one. We've got other people to go through. But hold that thought in your mind. What is it about your value proposition, about your idea, your magic widget that completely is different than everybody else is doing? If you can prove that by doing all your homework, then come and see us. We'll be glad to work with you. Make sense? So please mingle tonight. I'd like to my next step was supposed to introduce Don Duval, our CEO at NORCAT. God bless him and the flu and everything else that's laid up to him. I'll read you directly what he sent me, and I'll read exactly what he said. Good evening, everyone. I am so sorry I can't be there tonight. I'm back in bed. Oh, Mung, tears of emoji everywhere, crying. I feel brutal. It's in my lungs. I can't breathe. Anyway, I'm sorry I can't make it. So I'll read out what Don has written. First of all, and one of his things he was going to talk about is what is happening to our ecosystem here in Northern Ontario, and specifically in Sudbury. First, he says the startup ecosystem in Northern Ontario is the strongest, most confident, and most supported it's ever been in the history of Ontario. There's no question things are happening in Northern Ontario that's never happened before. We now have the strongest government support at the federal and provincial levels via the likes of IRAP and FedNor. Thank you to Paul Lefebvre and now Vivian Lapointe, who is carrying on his project to make us even more dynamic. Thank you for being here tonight. And also the province with their NOHFC and Ontario Centres of Excellence. We have tremendous support from them at every level that we want to go with our innovation sector. We have some of the strongest regional innovation centers across Northern Ontario because we have 5 specific areas that Ian sort of already has alluded to of how we have NOA reps in each one of them. So we're taking information and we're taking applications from all over the north. So we want to make the north as a real attractive draw where people from the south can come here. Because before everybody used to leave, now we want them to stay here and bring new people up here. And that's one of our biggest mandates. He says, we have a very large group of volunteer mentors who give their time, especially here in Sudbury, and to all of those who are volunteering in this room, thank you very much. We have the best access to customer market opportunities and deal flow that we've ever had, because we have this association now with venture capital angel funds like Archangel Network, with the Axion Fund, and with Phoenix Fire Fund. As an example, the theme of this evening, we have amazingly vibrant and largely untapped angel investor community, and the women who can participate, hopefully in one way or the other, in increasing our angel network so that we have these successful angel women investors who can help us with women's startups in all areas of Northern Ontario. Secondly, the success of NOA should give everyone a moment to pause and reflect that we are punching way above our weight in terms of angel investing in the North, both on a per capita basis as overall, even numbers. And Ian, he shared with you before, number one for the last 4 or 5 years with NOA, 5 years, amazing. So nobody else has got that type of region that we have here in Northern Ontario. We have angel investors that are not only investing in good deals, but they are strategically investing in ventures where they can help, where they can encourage that startup to do better, or opening up their wallets, or writing a check, or even taking a board seat. And everything in between, our investors are getting involved, our angel investors, with the startups that they're funding. These ventures are creating engagement opportunities for angels to play a meaningful role in the success of their investments and have some fun while doing it. Lastly, one of the most important inspiring things is that there's a subtle yet real desire for all Northern angels to not only invest in good deals, but also invest in opportunities that will create and sustain jobs here in the North and attract people from outside of our community for future generations. There's a civic pride in our community that's unlike anything I've ever seen anywhere in the world. And I have lived in lots of different cities like Canada, the USA, and abroad. So let's exploit unapologetically this civic pride as a competitive advantage going forward as we continue to work, grow, and expand by investing in the future tech startups. Thank you very much for being here. And again, deeply sorry for not being able to attend. Thank you, Doc.